So as we're saying there, welcome along. Welcome to Clicker Training. So this is training, it's going to take place over 4 sessions. So each session, as I say, about 40 to 45 minutes long. We're going to cover a different part of the software each day. It's going to kind of be in each webinar, hopefully you'll find something that is useful to you. We're not concentrating on a specific age range for any particular webinar. We're kind of going through the features of the software, kind of focusing on different elements of the software. And we'll be talking as we go along on different ways, maybe leveling it up and down to suit your individual learner's needs along the way. As I say, there's 4. So today we're looking at doing an overview of Clicker itself, what's the software about, and how it can be used. We're also going to take a look at the online learning grids, which is an online repository of resources, so you don't have to create your own stuff from scratch each time. It's a bit of a time saver. Then next week, next Tuesday, we're going to be looking at Clicker books. So again, looking at pre-made ones you can make yourself, and then maybe ones you can kind of co-author with your learner so they become an active participant in the process of writing a Clicker book. And then next Wednesday, the final webinar, we're going to look at accessibility features. So what can be used to tweak the software to make it more accessible to people who've got different access needs, maybe have a visual impairment, physical disability, and how you can adapt it to them. We'll be also looking at some of the kind of activities that don't really, they're kind of can be very adaptable. It can be used in lots of different ways. So we'll be looking at those activities like the matching activities, the talk sets, things like that next Wednesday, again with time at the end to answer any questions or if anybody has any specific queries that they've raised over the course of this course that we haven't addressed in other sections, we will address there. Just to say, Mary will be keeping an eye on the chat window. So if you have a question or a query, you can pop it into the chat window and we will either Mary can let me know if it's appropriate at that particular moment in time, or we can address it when there's a break or slightly later in the software. Okay, so that's the ground rules. So that's your kind of the layout for the next few sessions. So as I say, today we're going to look at Clicker as an overview. Some of you are probably already familiar with Clicker, or you've heard of it at the very least. Some of you might have had some hands-on time with it. With the email invitation that went out, Shirley included a link to where you can download a free trial of the software. I think it's a 30-day trial, or it's either 28 or 30-day trial of the software. So if you want to try it out before you make the decision about whether to purchase it for the individual learner that you're working with, or you want to try it out with a student before making a recommendation, maybe for the assistive technology grant, there is that 30-day trial period. You do need to contact the company. Years ago, you could download it directly from their website, but they've put in an extra step there now where you have to contact them, and as I say, Shirley put that link into the email. You can also access the trial through EdTech as well. EdTech is an Irish supplier of the Clicker software, so if you go to their website and look up Clicker 8, you will see the option there to request a trial. So as I say, some of you might have had a chance to have a little bit of hands-on, a little bit of practice, others might be very unfamiliar with the product. It's been around for, I don't know how long at this stage, I'm going to say close on 20 years, between all the different iterations of it over the years. It started off with Clicker and now we're on Clicker 8, although they are starting to drop off the number 8 at the end because it's kind of becoming a universal product. Before, you bought a version of the software. So for example, you paid a once-off fee and you had that license perpetually. You could keep using it and using it. They've changed their model. What you now get for your money is a 3-year access to the product. So they will continue to update and add features, which you will have access to for your 3 years of access to the software. At the end of 3 years, you will need to repurchase. So issues with that, I know with funding in Ireland, the Department of Education, if you're applying for funding under the Assistive Technology Grant, they tend not to like subscription type services. But the fact that it's 3 years means it's actually a decent amount of time, that you're not looking for funding every single year. So it's not perfect, but it's the world we live in, unfortunately. So over here, it's mainly used for students in one-off situations. It's prescribed for a particular learner who has identified learning needs. So that could be physical access needs, it could be a learning disability, it could be specific learning difficulty like dyslexia. That's usually the way it gets prescribed here in Ireland. In the UK, it's actually used across schools. So it's not particularly prescribed for one individual student. It's used in the classroom to present learning materials and provide access to the curriculum for the whole class, not just an individual learner. As we're going through these learning sessions over the next few days, we will point out maybe areas where we feel that maybe the student's own copy of the software could be used for small group activities or even classroom activities that might be of benefit to the individual learner at the end of the day. Just to say the way the licensing worked, as I say, it is a 3-year license, but what you get is a 1+1 license, as they call it. So it means one copy of the license can be installed on the student's own device, so their laptop or tablet, and be used for their purposes. And then there is an additional activation of the license that can be put on a separate computer. So that might be the classroom teacher, that might be the resource teacher, that might be the parent, it might be the SNA. It's kind of negotiated on an individual basis where that second activation of the license would go to most benefit the individual student. I know I talk about using it within the classroom, but at the end of the day, it is for the individual student. And for some students, having the classroom teacher have access to it is the most appropriate method. It's not cheap, the software. I think it comes in at around the €500 mark. So it's not cheap per user license. As I say, a user license gives you 2 activations. They also, however, have an at-home pricing, which is a lot less. I think it's approximately half the price. I think it's somewhere between 200 and 250, depending on sterling conversion rates. So that's for if a family or a parent or a guardian is funding the software. So it's a cheaper option for them. They're not paying the full educational price. So with that, I'm going to launch into the software, if that's okay. I'm going to share my screen. I'll be sharing my sound as well. While I'm doing this, as I say, I won't see the Teams window, so say chat and stuff like that. I might miss a comment, so Mary might interrupt me, or we might just wait till the end and answer questions then. But if you want to unmute your microphone, please do as well. We're a small group, so we should be able to handle 1 or 2 queries along the way. Okay. So just give me 1 second now while I share my screen. Mary, I'm seeing a notification there that somebody's waiting in the lobby. You might check that. Okay, so when you launch the software, you're going to get a window similar to this, or an opening screen, a landing screen, I suppose, similar to this. Yours might look slightly different to mine, and we'll talk about that in a second. But this is where it opens up. So in front of the screen, you've got the Clicker Explorer, this smaller window, and behind it then you've got a Clicker document. The Clicker Explorer might look slightly different depending on which tab you're on in here in the middle. So you've got a Quick Start tab, you've got a Files tab. Mine's got a lot, probably more than what your computer has because I've done up grid sets and things and saved them here. And we've also got the Learning Grids link then. This takes you to a website. I'll be coming back to this one in a minute, but just to say at this point, this is the easiest way to access Learning Grids. It is a website, but if you go through the software, like what we're doing here now, you don't have to put in your license code. If you go to the learninggrids.com website, there's a few more steps to downloading software or downloading sample documents along the way. So it's usually the easiest way is to go in through the software like we're doing here. I'm just going to go back to the quick start menu here because I just wanted to just go through some of the points on this screen. So as I say, this is the quick start tab. And you can see over here on the left-hand side is telling me recent clicker sets that I've used. So this is handy if you're working with a student or a learner. They can see what I used yesterday or the previous session with this learner. And if you wanted to nip back in and see it again, you can do that. You also have the option here, if there's a grid set that you're, or a clicker set that you're using a lot, you can pin it. So it'll always appear on the list. So if you just hover your mouse above the list of recent clicker files, you will see there is an option. Sorry, my tooltip's in the way. To have a little pin icon over here on the right hand side of that list, and you can pin it there. You also have here options about what sort of recent files, and it's asking there, do you want to just show documents, clicker sets with writing support, clicker sets around planning and bookmaking, or other types of clicker sets. Don't worry too much about this at the moment. I've got all mine ticked there, so it's showing up everything I've used recently. But with students who might have a lot of content built up over time, you might want to narrow down that list, but not to worry for here. Moving over to the right-hand side of this window, there is a few quick links here. So there's a quick link to a new document. There's a quick link to a new board. Clicker boards, just to say, they're kind of like a mind mapping, brainstorming type tool. We will be looking at those on tomorrow's afternoon session. And we also have a quick link to a book template. So you have quick links there to those three. Underneath this, we also have the option there to make a clicker set, and we will be coming back to this one again tomorrow. The idea behind this make a clicker set, it's kind of giving you more options. We've got the quick links here, but if you go into make a clicker set, it's giving you options around the different type of templates that can be used. So I'm just going to close that off. Over on the right-hand side of this window then, just to point out a couple of things, you've got a class teacher type student role up here. If you're using the software with multiple students, as I say, it doesn't happen very often in Irish schools, but you can assign a class to them. You can add a class there, and you might call it Miss Bergen's class. And then I can add in users into that. So I might have Kate and Ben and Harry. So you can type in each student there, each user, and they will jump in there. So as you change classes, so if I go back to no class, it's not giving any students there. If I go back into my class, it's giving me my students there. And that can be useful if you're creating grids that you want to use with multiple students. So you might set them up for Ben. One day you might go back in and choose a different user the next day and go in as Harry. Harry might have different set of requirements. He might need larger text. He might need auditory feedback. So you can go in and choose which student you're working with. So we'll talk about how you might set up and set up options and access preferences for students as we're going through today. I'm just going to click OK there. So you can kind of see I'm in Miss Bergen's class and I'm going to choose Harry for today. So you can see up there in the top right now, it's saying Harry, Miss Bergen's class, and you can put in pictures as well, but we're not going to go there. Down here on the bottom right, you can see then I've got the options to watch tutorials, excuse me. These are links to the Clicker website. And you can see there it's given lots of options about the training that if you want to refresh your training. So just going back here. So this is, as I say, where you land when you first start using Clicker. As mentioned there, you also... Sorry, is there somebody asking a question? Okay. Under the Files tab here, you, as I said earlier on, I've changed now because I changed who was using the class. You can see my shared files have disappeared. If I went back into my unnamed teacher role, you'd see all my files there. You've also got sample files here. Again, some of these, it depends on what you've downloaded, what might pop in here. You've also got, you might have saved Clicker documents and Clicker grids to the desktop or into my folder. I'm not going to click on those, but that will show you where you've saved your icons, or sorry, saved your documents or Clicker sets. So as I say, today we're going to concentrate mostly on using the Clicker documents and the learning grids. So to start off with, I'm just going to choose from this screen here, new document. Feel free to follow along with me if you can. You might be able to set up your computer to have a split screen, so you're listening to me on one side and doing the software on the other side. To do that, if you ever want to set up split screen, if you hold down the Windows key on your computer and press the right or left arrow, it will move the active screen to one side and then allow you to choose what other window you want to open on the other side. So it's the Windows key, which is kind of in between the function and the Alt key on my keyboard here. Hopefully it's the same lower row beside the spacebar, and then the arrow keys to move things around on screen. So as I say, we're going to concentrate on the new document today. So I'm going to click on that, and it's asking me immediately, do I want to save the changes to the document before closing? So I had a blank document open here behind. No need to save that, so I'm just going to click no. So it gives you lots of prompts to make sure you don't lose your students' work. What you have here is a blank document. It was kind of designed to look like Word 2007 for anybody who's been around that long and remembers Word 2007. It kind of changed with after that to become more ribbon-like menu bars across the top, but the original one had your icons across the screen like what we see here. So I'm just going to run very quickly through some of the icons on the screen. Some of them will be self-explanatory and I won't spend much time on them, but there's a couple I do want to talk about. So on the menu bar here, the first icon is new document. So if I wanted a new document, I can click on that. I've already got a blank document in front of me, so I don't need to do that. Under the drop-down arrow here beside it, if I want to choose to do a close test, which we will focus in a few minutes' time, we will look at that there. But that's the option to choose close document there. Beside that, there is a file save icon. If I click it once, it will just save it as what has been previously saved at. But I do want to point out a couple of things here. Under Save Document As, when you're saving files in Clicker, it tries to save them as a Clicker 8 document. A Clicker 8 document is very specific and will only be opened by Clicker software, so it will only be openable on a platform that has Clicker installed on it. However, you might want to take a copy of this student's work, maybe to put it in their folder in a shared drive. You might want to print it out. You might want to email it to somebody and you want them to have access to it. So unless they've got Clicker 8 installed, that's not going to work. So what you can do, sorry, I'm just going to move the window there, where it says save as type Clicker 8 document, you can use the drop-down window here and make the option to save it as a Word document or as a PDF format. So Word documents, you can actually go back in and edit them using Word. You won't be able to do anything with the pictures really, other than delete them, and you won't have the speech feedback, but we'll talk about those in a minute if you save it as a Word document. If you save it as a PDF, that's kind of a locked document format, so really good for record keeping if you wanted to take a PDF of the student's work, maybe for as a sample of their work, or they're working towards a project and they wanted to have a locked copy of it, you can choose it there. So just to say that those are there, that you have the option to, in the way you want to save the files. Again, same as normal, you can choose the document name and where you want to save the file, same as you would do in Word. Along then, the next icon is print icon. Very self-explanatory. You click on that, and if you've got a printer associated with your computer or with your device, it will print to that. The next icon then is under the support section here. We've got 4 icons under the support section. I'm going to talk about these, and I'm going to be nipping in and out and showing how you might edit or change some of these as well. 2 of the main features that we often use in Word document is text-to-speech support, so where the software talks to you, and picture support. So These are kind of two main supports that Clicker offers students. So as I start to type, for example,
The cat is on the mat.
And I've put in the full stop, it's talked back to me. It's told me what the sentence is. So this, if I want to hear it again, at the moment it's activated when I put in the full stop, but if I want to hear the sentence again, I simply press the speaker icon.
The cat is on the mat.
And you can see there a couple of things. It read back the whole sentence. It also highlighted as it read. So each of the words in turn turned red as it was being spoken.
The cat is on the mat.
A couple of things to say about this. You may want to change the voice. If you want to change the voice very quickly, the little drop down arrow here beside the speaker icon will allow you to do that. Depending on your computer and what software you've got installed, you might have different list of voices than what I have on mine. So at the moment, I've got Amy, a British voice on it. I can also skip to, let's choose a different one. Susan, let's see what she's like.
The cat is on the mat.
More mature sounding voice, slightly deeper in tone. However, if you wanted to do a little bit more tweaking to the options around the speech, you will need to go to options up here on the upper toolbar, and click on options. Here, if you click on speech over in the left-hand corner, it will bring up options around speech that we can tweak. And you can see here it's saying speech options for Harry, because that's the persona that I chose going in. At the moment, it's speaking as you type. It's only speaking sentences. So when I put in a full stop at the end of the sentence, it will read back the whole sentence to me. I can have it speaking every single word. So as soon as I put in a space or if I put in punctuation at the end of a sentence, it will speak back to me. Or I could have it speaking back each letter as I'm inserting it into the document. This is a very individual setting. You'll need to look at, work with your students, see where their needs are. Some students are absolutely fine. They may not need even the speech feedback, so you can actually turn it off. Some students might like it at the end of the sentence so they can hear back what they've just written and make any corrections. So for example, if they've left out a small word or if they've misspelt a word and it's pronounced wrong, they can go back and edit their sentence. For those students who might be just starting out with literacy, you might choose to have it speak words or letters. And you also under there got the option to speak when words are clicked. So for example, I'm just going to come out of this window, for example. If I just click on a single word,
mat,
it will just read that word. Just going back into options and speech again. Just a couple of things I want to highlight here, particularly for any student who has any sort of visual or visual perceptual issues. At the moment, when it's speaking, the text is highlighted, so you could see the text change to red. This can be quite difficult for some students because it changes, it's very quick and might throw off their scanning a little bit. You can also have it behind the text. So this acts like a highlighter behind the text. So just to show you what this looks like, I'm going to go for a slightly more subtle color. I'm going to go for yellow, which is a good contrast with the black. If somebody has a visual impairment, please see the information on that individual student's needs. Black on a yellow background is one of those kind of universally thrown around ideas, concepts around good visual contrast, but it may depend on the students themselves. So for example, I've changed now that's going to be behind the text and the highlight color is going to be yellow. So just to see what this looks like. Oh, sorry, wrong toolbar, go back to the document one.
Mat. The cat is on the mat. The cat is on the mat.
So there, the writing remained black. It was just behind the scenes moved with the speech. So for some students, that might be more appropriate. Again, just going back into speech, I just want to just make a couple of other points here. You've got your voices, as I say, you can choose your voice here and within this. So I'm just going to just go with Susan, we'll stay with Susan. You can download more voices and you can also change the speech rate here. So you can go much faster or much slower. You can play around with those in your own time. And you also have clicker set and suggestions here where you can right click on words to get them spoken aloud. I'll talk about those now in a couple of seconds. So that's under the speech menu there. So I'm just going to go back to the document. So that's what this is being used for, to read back the text to the student. I'm just going to jump 2 ahead or 3 ahead here to this little microphone icon, just while we're talking about speech and speech support. This is an option where you can audio record a note into the document. Now, it will not transcribe it. It won't take what the student is saying and type it out for them. It'll simply be like an old-fashioned tape recorder message, for want of a better option. There's a limited number of these you can put in a document. I think it's 6. But it's a really nice way for students who might be struggling to type out everything but still want to demonstrate their knowledge. So they can simply just talk into the computer, into the microphone, and just record it. So it's a very simple way of doing it. There is a few drawbacks to this. I don't think this feature is ideal by a long shot. I do think it's a nice one, but I think it needs further development. And I'll just show you why in 2 seconds. I'm just going to record something. So a very simple way of doing this. You've got the record button and you simply click on that. The horse is in the field. And simply press stop when you have finished. You can listen back to your message by pressing play, or if you're happy with it, you can press done. This is where I'd like to see a few tweaks to the software myself. The note is left over here in the top left. So even if you have done a good few sentences and you've got to do 6 sentences for homework, you've typed out the first 4, you audio record the 5th response, it still goes up to the top corner. So it's not in place in the document. The other thing is it isn't labeled. You don't have a way of labeling these to say that this is the response to question 5. It will, if I go and put in another audio note, you can see this one's going to be blue. This is the test. And it will just simply put it below it. And I can't move these around the screen at all. So they're nice. I think they could do with some more work. 2 other things around the support side here that I want to point out to start off with. One is the word predictor. So word prediction, I think most people are familiar with it nowadays. It's when you are typing something and your device assists you in either typing faster or to input a correct spelling. So we're familiar with this from our mobile phones, the majority of us. I'm just clicking it on here. So just to say, mine's popped up like this, and I'm going to go through a couple of things that might make it easier to use. At the moment, it's set that it's using phrase prediction. So it's predicting words that would typically start a sentence. So that's why you have words like the, he, it, they in there. As soon as I start typing, it starts editing that list and presenting words that are more appropriate. So you can kind of see as I started typing, it started giving me a few more options there. To select these, if you have a touchscreen device, you can simply touch on the one you want. I'm not a big fan of that because it means lots of movement of the arm up touching the screen, which can be quite tiring as time goes on. You could also use your mouse and select the one that you want. Again, that is taking the focus away from the keyboard and then having to come back to the keyboard to start typing the next word. What I prefer to do is use down here at the bottom, you can see there's a 1, 2, 3 icon. And what that will do is it'll put numbers beside each option. And now I can use the number keys on my keyboard to select a word. So for example, if I wanted to select the word there, it's number 3. I simply press the number 3 on the keyboard. So it means the student can keep their focus on one place. They're not taking their hand off, trying to use a mouse, trying to reach up to a touch screen. So I do recommend that you turn on the numbers there on the on-screen keyboard. You can make this bigger if the student has a visual difficulty or if they're just starting out or they need some more support around seeing the words. You have the option here of having it as a separate list. So just to say this little icon here, it will change it from being following along underneath the text to being on the side. Again, might depend on the student's own preferences around that, or if there's a visual element that needs to be taken into account. I mostly leave it like this for most of my students because it will follow on as they type, so they don't have to keep moving the rise back over to the side of the screen. But as I say, it's a very individual element of it. And if I want to turn off the word predictor, I can simply use the X down here, or I can just click it again on the toolbar and that will hide it away. My usual opinion with this is, particularly for students who teachers might be concerned that they are relying too much on the word predictor and not learning their spellings. My thoughts on this are that what is the task about? If you're testing spelling, turn it off. The way I have it now, do your spelling test. If you're checking for comprehension, if the student's involved in free writing, any of those type of tasks, turn it on because it's going to give the student the best opportunity to demonstrate what they've learned. I'm just going to the options up here on the tab again, and I'm just going to go into the predictor because there's a few things that we can go in here and tweak. And this you can do for the individual students. So for example, somebody who's at the junior side of school, they might want the simpler, higher frequency words. And I think that's got a dictionary of about, I can't remember, I think it's under 1,000 words, that simple dictionary. So it's a lot of high frequency words, Dolch list type words. Whereas you can kind of up it along the way until you get to the extensive, which I think has got something like 100,000 words in it. So it's a fairly extensive dictionary in there. You can choose how many words you want to show at a time. Mine's set to 6 at the moment, but you can have up to 10 words shown at a time. You can choose to hide words with less than X number of letters. So if, for example, if I put this to show hide words with less than 4 letters, I won't get words like I, am, is, the, and in there. I'll only get longer words like they, their, them, elephant, photograph, all those longer words. So you can kind of tweak it to the student's level. So for example, if they are struggling with Dolch list words, you might take that down. But if they've kind of gotten a lot of their frequently occurring words, know how to spell them, you can up it there. You also have options there for suggesting next words. So as I say, it's trying to do it on a phrase level. So if I've put in a determiner like a or the, it will usually predict a noun afterwards. If I've put in a pronoun, it's going to predict a verb, things like that. It will try and work with what your sentence is about. Underneath here, you've got sounds like, and this is where you can tweak it for students who might be very phonic spellers. So for example, I give a little idea there using spelling S-O-M-E, some, the word is S-U-M. So you can use that then to help if the student kind of starts off spelling, usually with the vowels, usually the wrong vowel, you can tweak it that it's going to give high priority to where the software feels that a phonic error has been made. So you can choose those there and choose it to set it for your individual student. So if, for example, as I said there, I've set it now, I'm going to actually set it to 5 letters just to show you what this looks like. And if I go back to my document tab and turn back on the word prediction, you can now see it's given me much longer words, or it's given me 2 phrases or 2 word phrases almost. So I can choose was a. And again, it's given me either adjectives here or nouns. So little, great, they're adjectives. Woman is a noun. So it's trying to follow the sentence structure in English. So if I start typing horse, oh sorry, there it is, number 2. In the is 5 there. Field, F. And 4 is there. Sorry, I've typed the sentence a few times, so sometimes it starts learning with you and you have it in there.
There was a horse in the field.
So that's kind of the word predictor. I just want to briefly now go on to the spelling support here. I'm just going to make a few errors. And it's not picked up on that one
cha,
because that is a word.
table.
So there's
The
my.
chair was beside the table.
So it's talking back to me. I can hear that chair sounds a little bit off, but beside and table actually sounded okay. But I can tell from this little red squiggly line that there's an issue. So if I go up to the spell checker up here, it's kind of giving me options about what words it could possibly be instead. So you can see there, it's given me lots of different words. If I'm unsure which word is the one I want, I can right click on this.
Pear. Chair.
So I'm right clicking and it's just calling out the word. Once it gets to the one that I want, I can simply left click on it. And one of the things I often do is on the mouse, is on the left button, I'll put a little green dot for go. And on the right mouse button, I'll put a little kind of outline of an ear. Press that one if you just want to hear it. And if you're sure, then press the green button for go and inserting it. So I'm putting in there. I'm just going to leave table for 1 second because I do want to show you something. One of the things we haven't talked about here is the picture support. So I'm just going to go to the options tab and go to pictures. And I'm going to the second tab on this one, which is Pictureize. And you can see there it's given me the option of putting in pictures. So just to say about the pictures here, it automatically uses the Quick Picture Library, which is their own library pictures, which has about 8,000, I think, pictures in there. Mostly nouns, I'll be quite honest with you. It's not great for other words. If a student needs more support from that, you can buy other symbol libraries. So you can buy the PCS or the Symbol Sticks picture library and use those. So for example, I might want to choose to put them into the predictor and the spelling suggestions. And you can see there it's looking at quick pictures that I've got saved on my computer as well. So if you have other symbol libraries, they'll show up there and you can tick them and you can move them around if you want to give higher priority to your own pictures, for example, you can move that up. Oh yeah, sorry, you can use the little tiny arrows over here on the left-hand side, but mostly you'd be sticking with the quick pictures on top. So just to show you what this now looks like when I go back to my spelling support, it's showing me that the word table, it's got a picture for that. So that could help me out the visual side of things. It's telling me the spell check is complete. I didn't turn it on there, but what you can also do under options and under pictures and under Pictureize words as I type into the document, as I type into a document, it could put in pictures if it has them for that particular word.
The mouse is in the house.
So depending on what level of support you want to give your students, you can tweak it. If a picture here, you want to remove it after a while, or if you need to change it, for example, you might want a different mouse. You might want the computer mouse rather than the animal mouse. If you click on the picture, above it, you'll see a little icon, and you can simply go and browse for the picture that you want. So you might want the white mouse, you might want the computer mouse, and just simply click on that and insert it. If over time you feel that the student should know this word and they no longer need the picture support, you just simply click on the picture and hit the delete key and it's gone. So that's some of the ideas there around pictures. You can also, at the moment, the pictures are attached to an individual word. You can also insert your own picture. So maybe you want an overall picture for the students' news they've typed in over the weekend, or they've read a story and they want a picture. You can do that through the Pictureize and browse. But you can also take a photograph. If you've got a camera built into your device, you can take a photograph, or you can paint a picture as well. I'm not going to go into this in any detail today. It's very like Microsoft Paint for anybody who remember that. But you can use there, you can do freehand drawing, you can insert shapes. You can go and browse the picture dictionaries that they have already and choose a picture and drop it in as well. So, and when you're ready, you just click the little tick arrow on the bottom left. I'm not going to go into that in too much detail. I'm running a little bit behind time here. Up along the top here, you've also got the option to insert things like hyperlinks and dates. You've also got the option to tweak the font, and so you could change it to different fonts. I tend to stick with Sassoon or with Comic Sans for the most part because of the A. it's mostly likely what is taught in handwriting, so I stick with that one. The next one along there is the alignment, the layouts. So that'll do your left, right alignments, inserting bullet points, etc. You also then have options around viewing, so you can see the whole page or zoom in and out. You can do things around the margins of the page. Not going to go into those. You also have copy and paste icons there, or you have the feature to go and look for a word in the document if you want to go and correct it. Very similar to what you do in Microsoft Word. Two things. I'm actually going to leave closed test till tomorrow. Actually, I've just realized I'm running way over time on these things, but I just wanted to just pull up one last thing just to show you here. Along the top of the screen, there is a tab saying Analytics, and I just want to show you this because it's really interesting. It gives you lots of feedback. Often when using software like Clicker, what you end up handing up to the teacher looks pristine. You cannot see the errors or the effort or what was used to create that document unless you're sitting over the student. However, this Analytics tab will allow you to see what was happening. So here you can kind of see that 60% of the words I used, I typed them in. I used the word predictor for 28%, so 7 words, and I used spell check on 3 words, which is 12%. So in all, I've got 25 words in the document here. It can then break this down a little bit more. So those are the words I typed in myself. So this can be really useful to check and see, are they using words that should be within their repertoire? You can see here in the predictor what word I chose, what I typed in, and if I use speech to help me figure out which is the word that I wanted. So you can see that there. We didn't use a clicker set today, so that's not going to show up there. You also have your spelling check. So as I said, I used the speech to help me choose the word chair. You can see my original spelling and what it corrected to. So really handy. And if I pasted in anything, if I was plagiarism is a query. So it's really nice to see that there. You can kind of see statistics around it. When it was how active time, about 1 minute. I would have thought I'd spent longer on it than that, but that's what it's telling me. I can have space then for my own notes. So I might want to, we need to revise this spelling pattern, or we need to look at particular things, and I can print this out then as well. So it's kind of telling me color code the words in the document which were typed with the keyboard, which were used with different supports along the way. So a really handy tool. As I say, the document that gets handed up to you might look pristine, but you can see behind the scenes. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for today. We will return and we will look at the closed documents tomorrow because they are useful. Closed tests, for those who are familiar, is where you pull out certain words out of a document, and it can kind of be used as an assessment of comprehension or of understanding. So we'll look at that one tomorrow. So that's a quick overview of kind of the introduction to, we never got on to Clicker learning grids either. I was way behind today. We'll get on to those tomorrow. We'll just do a quick overview. You know where they are if you want to take a look at them yourselves in the interim. Sorry, I'm just going to share my screen very briefly. If you are in the middle of a document and want to get back to that opening screen, it's the little yellow folder icon in the top left of the screen, and that'll take you back to that quick start menu and the other content there. So we'll talk a little bit about learning grids first thing tomorrow. That's actually good because it'll help us go into the topics for tomorrow's session. Okay, any questions? Nope. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording here. So if you do want to unmute yourself or turn on your camera,